Man, something I'm learning about myself, especially I can continue to live my life, is that I need people in my life that give me grace. And that doesn't mean that I don't want them to hold me accountable or keep it real with me or tell me the truth about myself or just give me the hard truth. Right? I'm getting better at being able to accept that. But yeah, I need people in my life that give me some grace sometimes. Now, the first question that comes to mind when you ask that or when you think about that statement is, but what does it look like to give somebody grace in real time? What does that even mean? I think it kind of reminds me of that quote that we talked about on some episodes ago. Don't give me a line on which one. I'll find it and I'll attach it at the end of the video. But stop making it all about you. That sometimes when a person is distant, when a person is dealing with something, when a person makes a mistake, when a person isn't clicking how they usually are, somehow, some way, we always find a way to make it all about us. And we think that certain people are doing things to us intentionally, when in reality, they may have been dealing with something or growing through something or trying to figure out something or just having a hard day. And that ain't got nothing to do with you. So when you talk about what does grace look like in real time, it's realizing that even though what they did or even though what happened or even though their actions impacted me, that maybe the reason they did it or maybe the reason it happened, maybe the reason a mistake took place is because they dealing with something that's bigger than me. Now, does that invalidate your feelings as the person that is being done to? No, it doesn't. Do you still have a right to feel some way or to speak your mind or to express yourself or to say how it made you feel? Of course you do. But at the same time, are you able to express your feelings but at the same time still comfort that person and what it is that they're dealing with? Are you able to say, it did hurt me that you did this to me or that you were late or that you didn't communicate or that you didn't do this thing or whatever the case may be, whatever it is. You see, because giving somebody grace doesn't have to be something super deep. Sometimes it can just be that your friend was late to your event or late to something that you guys were supposed to go to, and it wasn't because they did it on purpose. Maybe they was dealing with something. Maybe they had an accident. And sometimes grace is just being able to say, get on their ass a little bit, talk your shit, and being able to say, it's okay, I'm glad you're here. Sometimes that's grace. So when you talk about what does it look like in real life, is being able to still speak your mind and say your feelings, but not changing the way in which you love and act towards that person, even though they made the mistake that they made. Don't love me any less or browbeat me or treat me any differently just because I made a mistake. Especially if the person that made the mistake towards you, right, is genuine about it. Now, I get a person that does something to you and tries to make it seem like you in the wrong, right? Tries to gaslight you. But it's crazy. It's crazy how you can be talking about something and it can make your mind go somewhere totally different. Start thinking about your own life. It's crazy. I zoned out there because I started thinking about real life situations where this has happened. But it's different if somebody tries to gaslight you, right, to get back on topic when they were in the wrong. But if that person is genuine with you, it's not something that happens often with this person. Or they in a season of their life where they just dealing with a lot. It's nice to have people in your life that just give you grace. That are patient with you, that are kind with you. And usually it comes in the form of a best friend. Or usually it comes in the form of your lover. Or just the person in your life that gets you. It's nice to have that. But then they kind of pose the next question. Why is having people in your life who give you grace so important? Why should it be mandatory for every single person to have people in their life that give them that? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You need people in your life that give you grace and that understand and that are patient and that love you truly unconditionally. Because there are gonna be some days and some months and some seasons and hell, maybe even a years of your life where you're just struggling, where you just fighting to make it. And for every person, the reason we struggling, and the reason we going through stuff, and the reason we not showing up as our best self, and that we even are asking people to be graceful towards us in the first place, it may be different for every one of us. This person could have lost somebody that they love. This person could have just lost their house. This person could be dealing with financial trouble. This person could be going through a very rough breakup. This person could be getting abused behind closed doors. This person, you see what, like, we could all be going through so many different things in our life. And there's going to come a season in your life where you're going to just need a village of people or a person, right? You would love to have multiple people, but at least a person. In every facet of your life, your professional life, your personal life, right? Your spiritual life, they give you grace. That are patient with you. And that love you despite your mistakes, despite your shortcomings, despite your human moments. Because if you don't have people in your life that give you that grace, man, that's a lonely place to be. Nobody should have to feel that way, you know? So that's why I think it's so important to have people in your life that give you grace, right? And what it looks like, again, to give grace in real time is remembering in the back of your mind that this person may be dealing with something bigger than me. And even though my feelings are valid too, they are. It's okay to be understanding and patient and kind. But the person that's needing the grace, we also can't take that for granted. That's the other half of the equation. We can't keep using what we're going through as an excuse to be shitty to people. That's the other half of the equation. I get you dealing with that. I get you lost this person. I get you are dealing with this at home. You feel me? I get all of that. But that doesn't give you a right to mistreat other people because you're dealing with those things. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line between needy people that are graceful and patient and kind and loving with you while you're dealing with what you're dealing with. But the other side of the equation, the hard truth of it all, is that you still got to be on your shit eventually. You got to get it back together. You got to figure it out. You got to get back to living your life because you can't start mistreating other people that didn't do anything to you just because you're dealing with this or that you went through this. That's just what it is. That's just life. But if you do have people that are willing to wait out a little bit longer while you're struggling with things, right, to avoid you having to deal with it alone, which a lot of people have to do. A lot of people have to deal with certain things alone, and they go through it for a really, really long time. Because it takes a really long time to overcome some of the stuff that we go through. And so they rather deal with it by themselves and be to themselves than drag other people into their pain and their depression and their anxiety and their loneliness and their tears and all. They rather just be to themselves than to drag somebody that they love into that because they know how heavy all that shit can be. So I'd rather protect you from that so I can deal with it by myself. Oh, that's good. Oh, man. But yeah, that's why. Now it brings me to the next question. How do you start to notice people that only love you when you're perfect, but they don't necessarily love you when you're human? Well, I think the answer is pretty simple. I think it's when you start to show those human moments and that love they swore they had for you, it starts to change. That's when you know, oh, you're not one of those people that I talked about needing in my life that are patient with me, right? That gives me that grace. You're not one of those people. And what happens if we try to maintain that relationship with whoever that person is, we start trying to be so perfect around them just to avoid any tension. We're afraid to be human around them. Because every time we make a mistake, every time we have a human moment, they just find a way to throw it back in our face. Or they start acting differently towards us. Or they always find a way to remind us of our imperfect moments. And again, that's just heavy stuff to have around you all the time. So how do you spot people that don't give you grace? How do you spot the people in your life that aren't willing to give you that grace, basically? Is when you start having those human moments, pay attention. When you start being your true color self, right? Of course, hopefully you're being yourself when you meet anybody, but there's a certain version of you that becomes unlocked even more as you get comfortable with a person. And when you start being that person with them, right? And they're not loving you the same. They're not treating you the same. They're not giving you that same patience and energy that they were giving before. Be careful with that person. Because something about you being the authentic you bothers them. And I don't know if I want that type of person in my life. That's good too. Man. A couple more questions that this topic made me think of, and I'm going to get out of here. What's something you wish that more people understood about giving grace to entrepreneurs and creatives and leaders, right? Let's take it to the business side of the equation. I wish more people understood that for a person running a business, for a person being a creative, for a person being an artist, for a person being a thinker, a leader, a community advocate, whatever you are, I wish more people understood that they're doing their best. That the season you may have met them in or last saw them in where they were thriving and they were on point and everything was getting done and they were on top of every single thing and that's the person you loved and admired, they might not be that same person in the next season when you see them. But they're still doing their best. They're giving it everything they got with what they got. And I wish more people will remember those seasons in their lives when they were just doing their best. Not just with entrepreneurs and creatives and business leaders, but with people in general. I think that's so important. Man, that we all just doing our fucking best. Could we be doing more? Of course. Could we be doing better? Of course. Right? But I'm giving you everything I got right now. And I think if more people remembered when they were in that season where they was barely holding on, but yet still giving it all they had, you would have no choice but to give more grace and be more patient and show more love. Because you remember what type of pain that felt like. You feel me? Let's do one more. And I'm going to let y'all get out of here. I need some water. That was delicious. I said, have you ever had to distance yourself from someone because they couldn't give you grace through your growth season? I'm not going to lie to you. Having to separate yourself from somebody because you realize that they were never patient and kind and graceful with you, that's a hard thing to do because you're going to ask yourself, am I tripping? You're going to ask yourself, am I doing too much? But in reality, if you got people around you that always seem, because this is the thing, if a person is never willing to give you grace, then they're not being realistic with themselves. They're living in some type of delusion because they're treating you Them always being so hard on you and never being willing to be patient with you and to understand where you're coming from. They're being so delusional because they're acting as if they never went through anything in their life where they needed the same type of love and attention and care and kindness and patience. They act like they never needed that. But when the shoe is on the other foot and it's not them having to deal with it, they don't really give a damn. But I guarantee when they was going through it, they wanted somebody to be patient with them. They begged for somebody to be patient with them. But the moment you need it, now they act like that's too much to give. And it's going to be hard to have to tell a person like that you may really love that I don't feel like I can be human with you. I don't feel like I can make mistakes with you because you always find a way to throw it back into my face. And that's a very unsafe place to be. Where I don't feel like I can be imperfect because what am I supposed to be? That's why I was created. And so yeah, you may have to take a couple steps back from a person that you thought you would never take a step back from. And it won't be because they did the typicals as to why you had to leave them. It might be because they weren't being graceful enough with you. They weren't being considerate of your imperfect and human moments. And like I said from the opening, man, I need people in my life that are graceful and that are willing to give me grace because I know I'm imperfect. I know I have moments. I know I got a lot to work on. But again, hold me accountable too. Be real with me too. Tell me the truth about myself too. I'm okay with that. Right? I might not want to hear it, but I'll listen. But at the same time, man, be patient with me too. Because you have no idea how a person may be literally doing their best. Doing everything they can. They just need you to be patient with them, man. Real shit.